Good evening and welcome to Inside News with Dale Matthews and Mike Jones. Hello, Mike Jones.
Hey, Dale.
Hey.
I always almost forget to unmute myself.
Yes.
I always mute myself before the program so that the camera doesn't inadvertently shine on my face at the beginning of the program when Dale's trying to introduce tonight's program. And here I am. Yes, it is I, Mike Jones.
What he's actually saying is the camera doesn't shine on his face. It actually pulls pixels in and then does stuff with them. It's sort of the opposite of shining on his face, but that's okay because it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
Mike knows, we all know, you know what PILT means. Mike, you want to remind those that don't remember?
PILT, isn't that the stuff that ultimately forms the delta when it gets out to the ocean?
It's got arsenic in it. That's right, and it's coming down the river toward us. That's right. Yeah.
PILT. Oh, you mean payment in lieu of taxes? I know what you mean.
That's what I mean. And so, if you listen to Simon Hare, he'll tell you any day of the week that the PILT payments are down from the federal government. He's kind of our PILT down man on this, or PILT down boy, depending on how you want to look at it. And therefore, this headline from the 1940s about a scientific hoax that was pulled on the world in 1912, the same year as the scientific triumph of the Titanic, it's peripherally interesting for this evening. Maybe not at all. Okay, never mind. Good night, everybody. Okay, so
that was a great short show. It's like a Christmas present to all of our viewers.
Yeah. I told you what I want for Christmas: the OGEC to throw the book at the commissioners. That would be great. They're not going to do that.
Yeah, you know what's weird is that my payments, not in lieu of taxes, have gone up 3% every year. So I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Right. Well, so. Although Mayor Fowler has indicated, Grants Pass Mayor Fowler indicated he'd really prefer, as we're approaching election season, that we not hear so much from citizens, maybe nothing from citizens at all, especially those pesky citizens that insist on combining the features of the county with the features of the city. You should only ask us questions we can answer. That would be none. That would be none. Okay, so in this case, the county commissioners meet about once a month with the Grants Pass City Council in a joint meeting, and
they get together and smoke weed.
Yeah, well, they get together and they eat a free lunch on our dime. That's lovely. Okay. And I would just never do that. That just seems so wrong to me, but whatever. Okay. So they chow down on our dime, and then these well-fed bureaucrats then talk among each other, mostly about how much they admire each other, similar to what the city council does all the time. And so in this particular case, Mayor Darren Fowler was especially interested now that the city council has gone up in flames with the idea that we tried to talk him out of with this city sales tax. Now
they should have kept it in their lap.
Now he wants to know if the commissioners are willing to throw themselves on the funeral pyre.
Okay. Dale, I think you misspelled fire.
Pyre is P-Y-R-E.
I know what it is.
Oh, okay.
It's just when I first saw it on Facebook there today in the promo, I go, there's a lot of people that's gonna like. Bang,
yeah, like they pay
forehead.
attention to what I write. Yes, right.
Yes,
okay.
Right.
Oh, that's refreshing. So anyway, thanks for paying attention to the show. An awful lot of people looked at the Saturday promo. Yeah, they probably did. No, a lot of people looked at promo for tonight, and maybe they'll come and visit us. Hello, nice to see you. So what we're going to do, as we often do, is we'll play back this meeting, which you haven't seen. Almost nobody has seen this, if anybody. And then we're going to comment about it and laugh about it a little bit. That's what our show is about. So,
okay,
let Mayor Fowler set the stage. Mike?
Okay.
This is a subject I wanted to talk about after our recent question of the voters on the sales tax.
Our question of the voters.
What is the future county delivery of service level? We've tried a few things to help us limp to the point where we're at now. and
You're
kind of
limping,
wanted
all
to
right.
get your ideas and this council's ideas for what you think the next 18 months or 2 years looks like, as far as realities and possibilities, and any initiatives or leadership that the commissioners are going to take on this subject. Because of course, as a city, we are very, very concerned. So I'd open that up to anybody that would like to speak on the matter.
Oh, this sentence is just filled full of contradictions. They're going to provide some kind of leadership. There's anyone going to provide leadership? The city council offered this question to the voters. Yeah, you mean this disaster to the voters? He'd be interested in any input that the commissioners might have or the counselors might have. You think the counselors have any new input?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I do know now because this is an old meeting. Yes, I've seen this before. Yes, no, they're not going to come up with anything new, and neither are the commissioners. This is a problem with government in this county, as far as I can see, is that there isn't any new thinking, and the more I think about the new sort of thinking that we need to have in local government, the more I think that things like I had mentioned before, where, we can't have control of government because union has a lock on wages and all this kind of thing. We need to rethink all of that, because, this recent thing with our budget and the way the budget passed, nationally here, Republicans really believe that they cannot get anything done. I mean, they believe it all the way down to their soul. Because they just have this defeatist mentality, and they think so much like Democrats now that's the way they're going to be. And I'm going to make the connection here. I think we have the same thing going on here. We don't have any problem in our government here that we couldn't fix if we had control over costs. So I would urge, there's a new wave happening in this country, and it's going to, filter all the way down to the local level. And I'm hoping that this, catches on all over the place. And that is to rethink everything. Don't think that you can't do it, because if you think that you cannot do it, you can't. I heard a quote from somebody. And it was Zig Ziglar, and I can't remember the exact quote, but if you try to miss the target, you'll hit it every time, or something. Or if you're in other words, if you try to miss, you'll achieve your goal every single time. And so if you plan to fail, then you're going to fail. So I say rethink everything. Nothing is off the table. That's how we go forward. That's how you have new thinking. That's how you become the opposite of these people that we're watching here.
I agree with you about the new wave of change, and it starts right here. Hello. Look, this all of their thinking, this is not old. And the reason it's not old is just today, in the editorial by Kevin Whittison, he praised Cheryl Walker for this amazing new kind of thinking where 4 little levies will work where 1 big levy didn't.
Well, it never ceases to amaze me how the incompetent congratulate themselves on, how wonderful something is. They and it seems is the more corrupt you are as a politician, the more you get accolades from your peers. It just seems like, wow, that's fantastic.
Well, the praising of an idea by Kevin Whittison of the Courier is almost as bad as getting an idea that's backed by Cajo. I mean, what does it mean? I mean, it's the kiss of death in most cases, or at least it ends up being something that's not going to happen. Well, I got a new idea, brand new idea. Oh, really? What is it? Yeah, it's still a sale. It's still a property tax. What? But it's completely different. What's the matter with you? Oh, brother. Okay, let's hear. When the camera panned over, our camera, a much better quality than what the city gives you. Thank David Reeves. We You may have noticed that all three commissioners wanted to talk. Well, even Keith Heck held up his hand. What has Keith got to say? But boy, Cheryl was ready to, and we'll let Cheryl have her say tomorrow. But tonight, it's all Simon all the time. Go ahead, take it away, Simon Hare. Please lecture us at length.
So there's been several plateaus and steps down as far as service levels associated with what the county is able to provide. And it all started probably with a high point in 2011, 10, 11, that 2 years, 9 to 11, we were providing the highest possible level of a public safety service we've ever funded as Josephine County. It topped out at $26 million. We're at $8.5 million right now, still providing as much service as actually possible. But you can see that that's a pretty significant drop. And in one day, we did let go of 127 people. It was the biggest significant step.
Okay, there's a couple of problems with these numbers. We know now that we've gone back and looked at the numbers that were being provided by a fully staffed sheriff's department. Well, what kind of service were people out in the county getting from their fully staffed now, sheriff's department, Mike Jones?
Same old, same old.
Absolutely. That's all the stories from everybody saying we haven't gotten the
Nothing's changed.
No. And the people out in the county are the ones that are determining these votes. They're the ones that are saying no. Right. And despite what Kevin Whittison's repeating once again in today's Courier, it's not true that the people have turned it down 4 times. In a decade, they've turned it down 9 times. And I guess the Courier just can't count. They're always saying that. It's just wrong. That's all. I mean, it's just wrong. It's just too bad that a newspaper can't get it right.
They usually do something like they've turned it down 4 times in 5 years. Or
4 times in a row. It seems
like we're talking about smaller numbers,
right.
or something like that. Yeah,
it's not smaller. The other thing is Simon's always trying to sort of take credit, or sometimes deliberately taking credit for all that 100+ people that were laid off. You know the story behind this if you've ever watched the show. What happened was these people were working in mental health. I know there's a joke there. Just skip over that. Okay. So, and what happened was that they weren't happy with their contract. And so they took all of those people, that's a lot of people, and they moved them out of county. They still do services for the county, but now they no longer work for the county. This has got nothing to do with Simon Harris, got nothing to do with the commissioners. The only relationship that it has with the commissioners, this wasn't due to budget cuts. This wasn't due to smaller government. This was due to these guys being disgusted with the county government. This is not something to crow about, which they make it into, especially Simon. It had nothing to do with any of these commissioners. The only thing, and he ought to be happy about that, because the only thing that splashed back on the commissioners was that one of the people who no longer works for the county had done some things which were really wrong, and saying, well, you're trying to go out on strike and we may do this and this. Uh-oh, don't you? And so we got in a whole bunch of trouble. It cost us over $100,000. I can't remember exactly, but it was a huge amount of money out of our pockets because there were such lunkheads. And now, just like many other projects, just like Manor Development, it was a great victory. Why? Now we know not what to do. We know not. Mike, help me. We know what not to do next time.
That's right. And so, do we still pay for mental health services out of the general fund, or is the state helping out with that, or how is that working now?
I don't have all the answers to that. I try to stay away from mental health, as most people who've watched this show know.
Yes. That's a good one.
Look, well, another little side note is, of course, we criticize these guys. We criticize each other too. So, okay. So, and I do to myself. Well deserved. So the idea that that this has anything to do with Simon Hare, or this has to do with our service level, is not true. Okay, not true is a nice way to put it. It's a lie. It's simply not truthful at all. Oh, but we're doing the best that we can. I'm sure that these commissioners are doing the best they can. That's the bad part. Okay, keep playing. Keep going.
And we have not recovered from that at all. We have not made any strides. We've really tried to live within the revenue streams that we've been provided through secure rural schools, but the lay of the land is what I'm going to be able to provide, because I can't necessarily give you specifics on some of the things that we are pursuing as a county.
Oh, really?
But the lay of the land is...
No, wait. Really? He can't provide specifics about the things that we're doing. Why? Is it top secret? He can't tell the city council? He can't tell the citizens? He can't tell anybody. I can't give you any specifics about what we're doing. Because, why? Mike, any ideas about why he can't be specific?
You'd have to kill him afterwards, I guess. I don't know.
Why can Simon Hare not be specific? He's giving us exact numbers on some things, yet he can't be specific about their many successes and the wonderful progress that they're making. What wonderful progress?
You're asking the wrong guy. Sorry.
He said another place in this meeting that the actions that were happening with the Demick Tower were not only a success, but they're making great strides. There's no great strides. This is, once again, is simply not true. I mean, it's not even partially true. There's no great strides that are being made. They still don't have a plan about what they're going to do with that land. Stop telling me it's a great success. Stop saying you're making great strides. You're not making great strides. So stop saying that. Stop taking credit for stuff that has nothing to do with you. It's just all nothing but blathery exaggerations. I mean, you kind of expect that from commissioners, except part of our job is to point that out. Go ahead.
We have not recovered from that at all. We have not made any strides. We've really tried to live within the revenue streams that we've been provided through secure rural schools, but the lay of the land is what I'm going to be able to provide, because I can't necessarily give you specifics on some of the things that we are pursuing as a county.
That sounds a little deja vu.
Well, I think he's being repetitive.
That, we have enough funding to remain at this status level for the entire rest of this fiscal year, which ends in June, and then the next fiscal year starts in July. We can maintain a fairly close level of service. Thank you very much for your contract with the county for the jail services for that remaining, that next fiscal year. So 16-17 culminating in June.
Now, that's pretty interesting. I'm not sure everybody knows this. There's plenty of people who watch this show that do. But what did he just tell us? That we're okay through June of 2017, that we're okay for the next 2 years, that that the commissioners in general, Simon Hare, are pleased, because he's supposed to be in the new chair, by the way, isn't that Ducky? Ducky, I said Ducky. Okay, that we're okay at this level. They made the mistake of saying that during the last levy run-up, that the chief financial officer told everybody in a little meeting, and we publicized it, that we're going to be just fine for a while. Really? Well, then it wasn't helpful to passage of that levy, and of course it didn't pass. So he just told us, in these so-called, anemic times, that we're doing okay. We're doing okay with money, and we'll be. So you see why when they say, well, nobody in Washington, D.C. is talking about giving us money next year. That's right. Now, and why is that, Mike? Why is that?
Well, because we're Podunk, Oregon, and the topic of Josephine County doesn't come up very often. And,
also, they've given us the money for 2 years.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be, and then when it's time for them to consider it again, listen, they're statutorily obligated to give us the money.
Well,
right?
We're not the only county either. Okay, if we were the only county, people in Washington, D.C. could get away with ignoring our two senators, U.S. senators, and if we were the only one, and they could kind of let us die and wither on the vine. We're withering a little. We are. Okay, we are.
Yeah.
But this is a whole half of a state that we're talking about. A whole half, you know what I mean. This is half of a state. Can you imagine the political bill that would need to be paid by all of Congress if they let half a state go bankrupt because they're not paying their bill?
It's just so ironic that it would be so easy for them. Listen, if considering our future is such a hassle to them, why don't they just stop considering our future and allow us to take that off their hands for them? We would be in a lot better condition than we are now. Of course, they're not likely to do that. But like I say, I don't think you should take anything off the table. If you're Iran and you're negotiating with the U.S., you start with, I'll have an atomic bomb, please. That's how you start the negotiation. And, and then you can negotiate down from there and settle on something that is more than what you actually wanted. That's how you win in that type of negotiation. But, when you say, we don't want to bother those people because, there's no hope in a lawsuit or something against them. Well, that's defeat. And you're never, ever going to accomplish. If that's your thinking, forget it.
The strongest thing we have going for us is not sending Simon Hare on another trip to Washington, D.C. to go up to people he doesn't know and try to impress them with who he is. Hey, I'm a commissioner in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. That's not helping. We have 2 senators. They're going to remind everybody, as I just said a minute ago, if you do cut off this funding, and you're trying to wean us off of it, okay? If you do cut it off to half of a state, and I don't think it really matters what state it is, but in this case, it's Oregon. If you cut off and all of those people in half of that state are all bankrupt, all those governments are because you haven't paid your bill. Mm-hmm. Congress is going to pay attention to that, go, well, okay, can we cut it back to the least amount of money that we need to do? They're not looking at little Josephine County. Give me a break.
Yeah, but here the problem with that is that we're dying a death of 1,000 cuts here.
That's true.
So what they're hoping that we'll do is that we'll just forget about the money that we used to get, and that we'll just find some other way of making a living. Like we'll get people interested in tourism. How long have we been talking about tourism? Have you noticed the hundreds of thousands of tourists coming through Josephine County every summer? It doesn't happen.
Well, instead of increasing tourism, now the city and the county are going to spend money to ask someone from outside the area to explain to us what we have here that's worthy of touring.
Well, and here's the other thing, perhaps we could, instead of dealing with timber, we could go with mining. Oh, wait, you can't do that either. It's so ridiculous. This is the perfect test case for dealing with them, because this scenario has government tyranny written all over it. They have their boot on our neck. That's my favorite analogy because it's so illustrative of what's going on here. That I say we make this a test case. We stick it to these people hard. What do we have to lose, for crying out loud, to take these people to the woodshed and tell them, listen, we're not going to put up with this from you. You're destroying the economy of this town, and I realize that the current administration doesn't care at all about that, because
they made that clear. Just one quote. All you need is one to decide whether you want to still have Darren Fowler as a mayor. When he said, well, if it's driving companies out of business, we'll keep doing it for another year or two.
Yeah.
And he calls us bomb throwers. Further north.
Yes. I was thinking a little further east. Now, I personally believe, and I think most people are feeling the wave that is moving to the right in the country right now. That's the direction.
Yes.
Right. That's the direction that the country is going to go. And the only reason why I'm bringing national politics into this is that is going to have an effect on us. If we are going to break free of the tyranny we're under in this county right now, if we're going to break free of that, the next upcoming administration, providing that it's a little further to the right and thinking, one would hope, it doesn't always end up that way, but smaller government, lesser, regulatory entanglements. We can just hope that that's going to be the case, and that they'll say, and there'll be some sanity when it comes to federal lands and how they deal with that. Not to be banked on. Back to the local.
Okay, back to the local. Here's another clip from Simon Hare.
At June, there is no extension of secure rural schools that's frankly even being contemplated at the federal level.
We've just talked about this. doesn't even listen to this show. We just talked about that, Simon. Why are you saying this? Okay, because it's well, of course they're not talking about it because they want to concentrate on something else that's more important to them, like pork in their own states, and so they've set this up for 2 years. No, what he's saying is true. They're not talking about it. They're not talking about it for a reason, because we're set for 2 years until we get to that precipice again, at which point they can suffer all of the bad publicity if they want to by putting an entire half of a state out of business. And the rest of the state saying, you need to give more blood. We're the most anemic county in the whole state.
Yeah,
you need to
it's
give more
ridiculous.
blood. No, listen. We're doing really poorly as it is. Well, you need to give more.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to do it here. And the reason we're not doing it here isn't just because we're cheapskates. Some of us are. Okay, some people that are co-hosts of a show are kind of cheapskates. We're not talking about that. Okay, what we're talking about is that well, you ought to know how much money he puts into this show. Yeah, well,
we don't have to talk about your problems tonight.
No, we don't. Look, no, we're talking about everybody's problems. The thing is that that when we're talking about putting money into things, we're in a situation not just because we're cash poor, but also because we're morals poor, we're ethics poor. What just happened to this guy? What did we just catch the commissioners doing? And what about the city council? Well, we've already told her. No, you didn't. Well, we've done that. No, you haven't. Well, this and that. No, you didn't. We don't trust these guys. I'm not going to give them any money. Even if I had money, which I don't, I'm not going to give it to these guys. What, are you kidding me? Of course not. Well, they go up to Salem. Well, they just, they're never going to say they don't trust us. Well, they're just cheapskates. No. This is not the problem. I talk with some of the news directors of the TV stations. They all think that we're crazy here in Josephine County until just recently. And I've been telling them, no, there's a reason we don't trust these guys. No, you're just cheap. No. And now they're finally, well, really, that's not a good thing. Yes, that's correct. That's not a good thing. They're trying to get out. They're saying that they weren't found guilty. They're saying they weren't found guilty. Yes. And they did it again. Yes, they did it again. We're not going to give them any money. Oh, you need to replace those guys. Right. Play the next clip, please.
At June, there is no extension of secure rural schools that's frankly even being contemplated at the federal level.
Okay, here we go.
Why does he keep doing that?
Right now we have PILT, payment in lieu of taxes, which generated for us about $500,000 to $600,000 last year. It's 584, if I remember correctly. That is not going to solve the problem.
That's a really interesting number. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, could you imagine how much tax money would be coming in if those pieces of land were privately held and taxes were coming into this county on it? Oh my God, it would be a completely different situation.
And here's another way. Here's another way of looking at that number. About $600,000, right? Does that number sound familiar to you? There's two places where that's familiar, one from the past, one from the present. In the past, they were willing to spend $600,000 on one piece of software that we didn't own, that didn't work with any other software, and it wouldn't work on its own. We had to hire a guy from Jackson County at $60,000 a year just to keep the thing running. And guess what? It took it went down in flames. It fell over and burst into flames like my tripod. Yes. And it was complete waste. Okay. And it never should have been done in the first place, $600,000. Recently, we saw another $600,000 because we've all heard about PILT. You've heard of payment in lieu of taxes. Okay. So what about this money that was going to be spent on catching the arsenic in the water? That was a 5-year contract for about $600,000. Well, now, wait a minute. Why is it that PILT is so, it's great that we're getting this, but they can then take out of the general fund $600,000 and throw it away on bad science?
Yeah, amazing.
They had the money.
It's amazing. Yeah, apparently they did.
Where's that money
They
coming?
thought they did, or...
Now, if they told us we're going to take every dime out of PILT, which they've been, I'm so happy to have PILT, and we're going to put it into this speculative thing which turned out to be false, or just not enough science, or not enough thinking, It was Cheryl Walker trying to get some kind of legacy of the wonderful things that she's done. And every time it ends up empty. There was nothing. There's no there. What happened to that money that we were going to spend on that? Where'd that come from? How's that possible to break that loose? That's all of the PILT money, right? Nah. It's a hoax. Go ahead.
Our funding shortfall will probably be close to $5 million. And so you can do the math. At that point, we won't even make it fiscally to the year when we are stopped paying for the jail bond, which is June 30th of 2018. So we'll have one more year of paying on a jail that we will not have in operation. We'll have to close the jail. I mean, these are non-debatable elements from a fiscal standpoint. If we took all of our reserves, there isn't the money in our reserves to shore up the shortfall that we'll experience by that funding stream going away. So it is June 30th of 2017 when right now that's all we can say we have and can do. We can't do really any more than we already are doing right now.
Yeah, this is fantastic. You know, you have a room full of defeated individuals that are just resigned to the fact that this is ultimately what's going to come down, even if it isn't going to be that way. Even if ultimately they do cut loose more money at the end of, you know, they haven't talked about it yet, so they go, well, it's not going to come, you know, and Armageddon, the sky's going to fall, you know, everything's going to hell. I just think that if you resign to it, if you just expect that that's the way things are going to be, then that is exactly what's going to happen. And
well, I would encourage them to resign from it, for one. But you've heard us tell you this story before when the senator came here for a meeting in Cave Junction, that our one of the county commissioners said to that guy, "Stop bringing this news. We can't pass this good news about how we're going to get the money, because every time you do that, then the levy doesn't pass." They're only interested in the levy, Mike. They're only interested in the levy.
They are. And that's the interesting thing about this is that they're so hooked on using fear to push their agenda that they're even buying into themselves. I mean, this is like a feeding frenzy of fear that's going on in this room right now.
A feeding frenzy of fear. Okay, that's the new name of our show. Hello, welcome to Dale and Mike, a feeding frenzy of fear. Look, if you want every once in a while, you got to look very carefully. You got to slow things down a little bit, because he was talking real fast during this. This is why we're cutting it up, right? And then talking about it. You got to watch every once in a while when they say these things. Remember when the police chief, I like him, but remember when he came on and said, well, we thought we were running the wheels off of our cars, and it turns out that their own statistics showed them that they weren't? That was an amazing admission, and it was in the middle of a big levy push meeting.
Right. Yeah, it was a perception problem, which is a lot of our problem is perception.
Now watch this next clip. And here they're talking about that this is out of order, but you'll see the reality reflected in this and the laughter at the end from Dennis Roller, who's talking about how well off the city is, who just tried to push a sales tax on everybody because they need more money. Listen to what he's actually saying.
Now, and before I do that, remember what Dale said and be anticipating it. Just an observation about what the chief said about the perception that they had about running the wheels off of their cars, and that they were actually taking less people to jail than they were before. But
that's correct.
But the thing that came through that made them do a bunch, it changed their behavior and make them think they were running the wheels off their cars, was the jail fee. I forget what they're calling it here, but the contract, the jail bed contract that the city has with the county, that is what they thought. Okay, now we have that. Now that we have that extra space, now we can go and run the wheels off our cars, taking these people to jail. And they are actually taking less people to jail than they were before. So let me ask you something. What happened to the money that they paid for the jail beds, if they're not taking more people to jail, but they're still paying for more jail beds, didn't they throw a bunch of money away that they didn't need to do? And all they really had to do was change the way they were policing?
Change the way they were thinking. Really, it literally came down to that. Change your perception, because your perception, you just admitted, you proved it yourself, it was wrong. Now, the perception that the city voters were being sold was that the city is desperate for money. It's going to need this money because the city is also not doing very well. It really needs this money. But listen to what Dennis Roller says and how he chuckles at the end. Listen to this.
Nice segue, Dale.
Expanding that sewage plant out there, North Valley. I don't know where you're at in that, but that's the big problem out in a lot of the county. It's got the flat land more than we have in the city. But then you don't have money to expand, like, say, the infrastructure. And we are limited in how much we can spend outside the city to try to expand anything or to help anywhere, because we've got obligations to our own constituents. And so, yeah, some of those jobs might go to Grants Pass residents. But on the other hand, we can't just be spending millions and millions and millions out there and not be able to show some kind of return. So we're kind of stuck. One person's got the land but not the money, and we've got the money but not the land, and so it's kind of awkward.
Yeah. It's kind of awkward. Ha ha. It's kind of awkward. Let's see a still from that picture, and I want you to pay attention to the people that are in this picture. Okay. Yeah.
There's,
Roy
Lindsay and
on the right is Goodwin, and then there's Dennis Roller, and then there's Hannum, and then
that's funny.
and then there's Rick Riker, and then there's Roy Lindsay. Let's take a look at Roy Lindsay and Rick Riker.
Okay. Oh, we have a tighter shot on that?
Yeah, that's the next one.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, they're yucking it up, or at least Roy Lindsay seems to be really enjoying that.
This was the moment at which, I picked this spot specifically. They weren't talking about vegetables. They weren't talking about daffodils. He was laughing. This is a still from that video where Dennis Roller is laughing about how it's kind of awkward that they have so much money, even though they said, oh, we need more money from you city taxpayers. It's just too bad we don't have votes along the side of this. This should make you really upset. Why is Roy Lindsay so happy about this, that they're joking about the fact that they've got so much money, they just don't know what to do with it?
Yeah, but this is just like government, for crying out loud. This is why I think government is like a disease. And people tell me not everything about government is bad. Almost everything about government is bad. The city doesn't have any money. Okay. They don't have any money that they don't first take from you. And then not only that, they have a looming, expenditure in the water plant. That's like $80 million. Quite frankly, they've been throwing $80 million out there. I think that should be bid around quite a bit. Because, I've looked at the size of that water plant and I don't see $100 million sitting there. Maybe there's something about purifying water that I don't know. I'm sure there is. But the bottom line is the government, they don't have any money. If there's a pool of money sitting somewhere, it's not theirs to do with what they want to.
They're swimming in a pool of money. Look how happy this guy looks. And the joke that was just made is not a joke, by Dennis Roller, who used to be the editor of the newspaper here, if you could call it that. This guy was just saying it's kind of awkward how much money they have. It's kind of awkward. I think that the voters would say, hey, wait a minute. The taxpayers of Grants Pass, I am one of them, would say, now hold on a second there. Okay, I pay mine through my rent. Thank you very much. They might say, why is it that you have so much of our money when you don't need that money? Because you're laughing, Roy Lindsay, about how much money you have. Really?
Yeah.
Now, let's take a look at the other side of the dais. There he is, kind of laughing about it. Look, where is Jim Goodwin looking? Who is he looking at?
He appears to be like looking at Cheryl or something.
No, he's looking at the camera.
Okay. Yeah, that's Cheryl's head
He's looking
there.
over the top of Cheryl's head at the camera.
Okay.
See, here are these guys yucking it up. They think it's pretty funny. They've got all this money. Jim Goodwin has just enough political sense to realize, well, I'm pointing a camera directly at them when they're laughing about how much money of our money that they have, that it's embarrassing. It's awkward how much money they have. And this guy's looking at me. He's not looking at Cheryl. Okay, last still. Somebody did react to this.
I don't know if he's just wiping his face or what.
But
that is funny. I can see an internet meme there with wording on the top and bottom about any number of given topics that would just be funny.
When I first posted this on Facebook, I posted all these pictures along with the video of this specific little gathering, this little part, and I said, please write a caption for this. What is Ken Hannum thinking? Yeah, Ken Hannum is up for re-election. And his fellows there are saying and laughing about the fact, and so is Jim Goodwin, they're laughing about the fact that they've got so much money, they just don't know what to do with it. Just right after they were trying to tap the taxpayers for more money. I don't want to give these guys more money. Okay, let's go back to more blather from Simon Hare.
But I would say that the prosecution and the DA's office would be significantly impacted, and all of the other services that we do. But the jail half full is $4.2 million. So that's a big portion of our. You can see that we'll cut our criminal justice system funding by another half. That's the lay of the land as I understand it, unless something changes.
You know what? Before we continue here, I
don't think we're going to be continuing. I think that's all of the clips for this evening.
Okay. No, I was just going to say that, he mentioned in a previous clip that, and what we have after this is a $5 million shortfall. And I'm thinking to myself, $5 million shortfall. Oh, from what you want to have.
Yes. Yes. Good point, Mike. Yes.
You always have to look at it. They go, we're going to have this much of a shortfall. Oh, from your dream budget, I'm assuming. Because we have to look. You got to be skeptical of every single thing you hear from these people, and that's why we're parsing the living bejesus out of this.
Yes, that's why, because we have. There was somebody said recently, it was in some kind of thing in the Courier about how I know, it's tomorrow night. Cheryl Walker says tomorrow night, I think it got picked up by the Courier at one point, that one of the problems is, and the reason this $2 the $2 bill may come down on us, the reason the state may march in here with blue berets and take over and everything, is that we're draining the state of services. Okay.
Yes.
What services are we draining?
I think we addressed that one before. Yeah,
that apparently is some kind of reference to the Oregon State Police and how we're using more than our fair share. The only problem with that is we know now from the Oregon State Police that that's totally wrong.
Yeah, and you know what? We need to submit that information in an official capacity. In other words, somebody needs to present that at the weekly business session. I nominate Bill Hunker. And
I nominate Mike Jones, but okay.
Okay, or at the city council as well.
Yes,
to present that and make it clear to them that we're not getting more. As a matter of fact, if anything, we should be getting a greater share of those services than we're getting now, as it is proportioned throughout the state. We're getting a lesser amount of
We
that.
are getting less. We're getting less than Jackson County is getting on a per capita basis, on a per thousand. We are getting less. So they keep lying to us to pass this levy. If you don't, you've made up your mind probably if you're watching the show. But the point is that if somebody has not made up their mind, 4 levies might be a good. If you haven't made up your mind, just look at which side is lying to you. Okay, yeah. They're constantly doing that.
And listen, we have this fantastic what amounts to be political high ground. We have the lowest tax rate in the state, and as Bill Hunker has told us, we should be proud of that. It means that we have kept back the horde of barbarians who have been trying to overrun us and raise our taxes.
The real bomb throwers.
Right. And we should be proud of that. And we should continue that, because you know what we are forcing to take place? We are forcing to take place better governance. And regime
change, for one. Yes.
Right. Regime change. We are forcing them to live further within their means, as opposed to giving them more money to expand and do the things that we all know are wasteful.
But think of what bad news this is for the legislators in the rest of the state. Josephine County is showing us how to live within our means. We can't have that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they really care what we do. But I think that, us doing this and us bringing it more in line with the way the people want it, because this is with the way the people want. The people want the government.
They made it very clear. Come on. Well, if you're going to be a representative, then represent. And that means you've got to, we can't think of anything else, then get out. If you can't think of anything else, then get out. Now, what we'll do on Christmas is we will take all of the ideas that we've strung together for a whole year. Yes, we've been on the air every single day for almost a year now. We started January 1. On Christmas Day, yes, we'll be on. Of course, we'll be on. Yes, we don't stop being citizens because it's Christmas Day.
We may be pre-recording it the day before and playing it on Christmas, but you'll never know, because we'll say Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we're not even going to allude to that on this show.
Yes. Right. Okay, we won't.
So the thing is that we'll get together all of the ideas that we've had. We'll lay them out there. Nobody else is doing this. And we'll say, all right, tear them apart. Go ahead. And we're not going to be picky. Oh, gee, I don't know if I really want to say that because it might cost me some vote. Maybe I'll say I'm not for it. Listen, we're going to tell you everything that we think that we know. We'll lay it all out there. We'll talk about how we can get through this time. How it's just a matter of we've got these things here, and we can keep going, and we're going to talk about how far we can keep going, even if things don't work out all right. And then you look at that and then you say, how come these guys are only coming at the only solution they ever have is something we already told them several times we don't want to do? Now listen, I realize that you're only 14, but I really want you to go to bed with me. No. The answer is no. Yeah, well, what if I have 4 friends? No. The answer is still no. No, 4, it doesn't make any difference. I'm saying no. No means no.
I really dislike this analogy here.
Okay, I'll try not to use it again. But my point is, they're screwing us, Mike.
Yes, I understand.
And they won't take no for an answer.
Right. And you know what? The thing is, when they keep saying no, I mean, they say everybody else is saying no. They're the ones that are saying no. They say no to funding law enforcement. They've got $600,000 to throw at water testing. They've got $600,000 to throw at software, but they don't have $200,000 to throw at the sheriff.
That's correct.
So file that under what you need to know about how close to the fiscal cliff we are, or these people even consider us to be. They're lying about that.
Mike used the word lying. There's progress.